All right, thanks, Laura, and I really appreciate you introducing me to your company and this service. And as Laura had said, this is our second pro-aging webinar. Our goal with these webinars is to replicate the experience that people feel at our popular pro-aging meetings, where you can hear interesting speakers, and eventually we'll probably introduce some networking tools online as well. But I definitely don't plan on being the only presenter at these pro-aging webinars, but the reason that I'm doing these first two is so that we can get used to our system, and then as we bring other experts to the table, we'll be able to facilitate that much better. So just consider these first two sort of I'm sort of the guinea pig. I'd rather be the one that makes mistakes than throwing one of our experts up there and have them make mistakes. So the presentation, well, first off, you can see on the opening screen, we've got some really cool things happening at Pro-Aging and Guide Retirement Living Sourcebook. And what we hope is that that over the summer we're going to be launching even more of those. But what today's presentation is all about is giving you some tools and a structure to marketing and networking for folks that are working with seniors. And for those of you who know me, you know, really what I like to encourage is thinking outside of the box and stretching for new ideas. One of the things about marketing is that we've got to be taking risks. We've always got to be pushing the envelope. I love this photo, and I sort of overuse it, but when I use it in context of marketing, it's if you were driving by a bus stop and you saw a bunch of little old ladies sitting on a bench, and then you see this woman here with her leg above her head, she's illustrating good marketing. She is standing out from the crowd because she's doing something different. And one of the challenges when folks start talking about marketing is that many times it's on practice, and if we all followed the same practice, none of our marketing is going to stand out from the crowd. What I'm going to share with you today is really a structure. It's a framework that if you follow it, you should, like many of our clients, it should deliver results. And so let's get into that. Okay, the main structure of our system, and this is sort of based on literally hundreds of client meetings and interviews over the last 10 to 15 years, let's say, is we basically focus on three different categories: is who are your clients, who gives you referrals, and who do you refer to. And then what we're going to get into this, but first let me just sort of share with you kind of our view on the tools that you have for marketing and what we're going to focus on today. So, obviously you've got one of the key elements is brochures and printed materials. Most of us in this business have brochures, although I'm going to give you some suggestions today on how you could cut down on your printing costs there due to the online and website usage, which is another element. There's public relations, and that's getting those stories in the newspaper, but more frequently now it's getting the stories on, in most of your communities you might have patch.com and local websites that are really replacing the value that the local newspaper once delivered. A big thing in our business is speaking. In addition, hosting events at your community, and one of my favorite, which I'll talk about, is promo items. You know, all the little tchotchkes and pens that we love to buy. The other element is advertising, which you know, traditionally print, broadcast, what have you. But a lot of the tips that I'm going to be talking about today can be translated into shoe leather networking. And the beauty of this is that it lowers you're not writing checks for a lot of this stuff, and it's very important in the senior living business. So I'm going to go back to our three primary categories, and I'm going to walk you through this, and I'm going to tell you a few stories about how important this is and how we kind of discovered this system. So the first is, who are your clients? And it's amazing to me how detached many of us become from actually who we are serving. And let me sort of share where a story where we stumbled upon this in full force. And if I don't mind, hey Laura, can you mute your phone? That would be great. I'm getting some sound
Muted?
off yours. Yeah, can you mute it? Because I'm catching some sound off of your end.
Steve, that better?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, the first thing is knowing who your clients are, and I'll tell you where I stumbled into this one was an assisted living community. It's about a dozen years ago, had a serious census issue. I mean, to the point where they were at about 50% occupancy. And this particular community had gone through multiple marketing directors, and they came to me with this big problem. They had 2 marketing directors that they had hired now, and these ladies gave me a call and invited me out to sort of figure out what they could do to turn this problem around. And the whole conversation seemed to revolve around the fact that they felt that their community wasn't competitive with the other communities in their market. And they were concerned that the owner wasn't going to put more money into it and they would never be competitive. And at some point in the conversation, I said to them, it's like, look, guys, I know this owner, and even if he wrote you a check for $1 million today, it's still going to take 2 years to make these improvements. So we got 2 things that we can do. We can either figure out how to make this work without the improvements that you think you need, or I can help you guys find another job. So obviously we decided to take the first path, and I said to them, I said, you know, you've got 30 residents right here, right now. Are they happy? And they're like, oh, they love it here. And so I said, well, why don't you give me a walk around the community? Let me see what's going on here. And so we walk around the community, and it's around lunchtime. We're in the dining room, and for these 2 marketing directors, I said, you know, what can you tell me about the lady over there? And you know, and I started just sort of, you know, nodding my head at different women in this community, and these 2 marketing directors really didn't know much about their residents. It was apparent. What they knew was present time. Oh, she likes to play bridge. Oh, she likes to walk around the community. But they didn't know anything about their life history, what their hobbies were, they sort of had an idea of what their hobbies were today based on the activity calendar that the community presented. And so I said, look, it's apparent to me these 30 ladies, there's primarily women living in this community, love it here. They seem to be happy. So now let's find out exactly who they are. And what we did was we drew up a survey, and with the help of the activity director, these 2 marketing directors went door to door and asked every resident in the community, what where they were from, what were their hobbies and interests now, what were they in the future, what were their jobs, what were their passions, how many grandkids. We went through this, and they learned so much about this community in the process. But what they really had with them now is that when an inquiry came into the community, they would ask the prospect or the prospect's family the same exact questions. Well, tell me about your mom. Tell me about her hobbies and passions, this, that, and the other. And they were able to turn the conversation around and say, I think your mom's going to like it here, because we've got 3 retired school teachers, we've got 6 ladies that love flower arranging like your mom, and we've got 2 people that went to the same church as your mom. And now it was almost as though, after doing this for a while, they were telling me that the tours were almost just superficial. It was sort of like, once they were able to relate the existing clients or the existing residents to the prospect, then it was more, they were coming by the community, not to look at the community, but to meet the people that they were similar to. And this is what we sort of say, the birds of a feather philosophy, is that people want to live in the same type of, with other people that are just like them, or people that they're interested in. And I always say in this area here is to think back to when you toured a college campus, or if you tour a kid on a college campus, they could care less about the real estate and the square footage of the dorm room. They're looking at the other students, and that's the environment that we want to sort of set our marketing up for. This also enables you to do something that's way better than our traditional marketing, and that's to tell a story, is to tell stories about the clients that you have. Now, the story that I just conveyed here relates to senior housing because it's easy. They know where their existing customers are. They can go talk to them and interview them. But we've done this with home care agencies. We've done this with all different types of services. And the key is to just have a detailed client profile here. And I'll tell you some ways that you can work with that later. Okay, the next category is who gives you referrals. Now, this is one that's really surprised me over the years at how few people really keep a running list of those clients that they get, those professionals that are giving them referrals. We call these the VIPs, and I'll tell you a story about a home care agency that we did this with. And the owner was so excited about this that in talking about sort of profiling who gives you referrals, number one, he was a little bit embarrassed because he's sort of like, geez, I can't believe I don't have this at the drop of a hat. And so he went back to his office, and over the next couple of weeks, they went through all of their files, and they put together this elaborate spreadsheet that showed the last 6 years of referrals and where they've come from. And what we basically say is, first, obviously, the name of the person that gave this referral, their profession, so whether it be an elder law attorney, another home care agency, an assisted living community, the client's name. And then this is something that always opens people's eyes, is that, so you look at this client that Deborah referred to you, and how much did you bill on that client? And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later here, is that, what is the pain that you solved? When I use this term, the pain, is that, what is the pain that was solved in moving mom to the assisted living? Well, the family has more peace of mind now. Mom can be around people in a more engaging environment. What is the pain, of somebody getting a home care agency? Well, as opposed to moving to an assisted living, now they can remain in their home for a bit longer. And so going back to my example, this home care agency sent over this spreadsheet with 6 years of client referrals, and what was amazing and that he never realized is that one geriatric care manager had referred him over $900,000 of business in that time period. And this is what always knocks people over, is when you look at these referrals, just how much revenue are they driving to your business? And generally, most of the time when we do this, we're looking at $20,000, $30,000 in referrals. In some cases, somebody that refers to an assisted living or a retirement community and has done it multiple times, and the resident has lived there for several years, we're talking millions of dollars of transactions. And now this totally changes the game here in terms of, what are you willing to spend to get more referrals? What are you willing to do? And how important these individuals are to your organization. Okay, now the last element here is, who does your organization refer to? And for this, the example that I'll bring up is a geriatric care manager. Many years ago, the first time we did this with a geriatric care manager, we asked them to compile a list of all the people that they had given referrals to. And again, that's all geriatric care managers do, is refer to other organizations. So we looked at this list, this huge list, and I just randomly picked one out of the list. It was an assisted living that had gotten 3 resident referrals in the last year, and I asked them, now what have you gotten in return for these referrals? And much to all of our surprise, they hadn't even really gotten a formal thank you note or anything. And this, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about this story here in one of the future slides, one of the next slides that I've got up here. But basically, that story really drove home some important things. But you do the same thing here, in that you write down, who is this person that you're referring to, their profession, their client's name, how much they billed, if you can estimate that, and the pain. All right, now, usually when I give this presentation, I do it in live, and what I tell people to do is sort of take that information that I just gave you and just kind of jot down on a card, these 3 columns. Who are your clients? Who gives you referrals? Who do you refer to? In most situations, we can narrow these down to 2 or 3 in terms of, you've got 2 or 3 different organizations that are giving you referrals, and 2 or 3 different organizations you're referring to. I refer this as your A list on referrals. And we're going to talk about how you can use that A list when you go into networking environments, when you're creating marketing materials, and so it's very important to sort of go through this exercise to get it down to those 2 or 3 that you've got. And okay, now I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into the strategies of how you can use this framework that I've just talked about. But what I want to talk to you about, because networking is a key element of our business in senior living, and I'm going to give you a couple of networking time savers. Most of you in the audience have probably at one time or another attended a senior serving network meeting. And for those of you who haven't, what these are is they're like Chamber of Commerce's for senior serving professionals. And as you can imagine, in our company, we field a tremendous amount of phone calls from folks that are starting new businesses and are just getting into this field. And one of the first things we always tell these folks is, go to one of these networking events that's close by your market. And again, probably a dozen years ago, we had this huge growth in home care agencies, and we were telling a lot of these folks, go to these networking meetings. And me and my staff, we would see folks, be real excited about their first meeting. And they'd still be excited after the second and third meeting, but then all of a sudden they would disappear off the scene and we wouldn't see them anymore. And after having conversations with a few of these folks, what we found is that they were like, geez, you know, I went to that networking meeting and I took about 20 people out to lunch and I didn't get any business at all. And so using this framework that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give you some tools that can kind of help you in these environments. First, I talked about in my previous slides is finding the pain. Without pain, there's no need for anybody to buy our businesses. And this gets confused sometimes because sometimes we're selling a luxury retirement community or a concierge service. But the point being is, if you sort of look at it, is why is the person moving to the luxury retirement community? Or why does a person need a luxury automobile? Well, you know, they've reached a point in life where they want the best. They want something really nice. They want to keep up with the Joneses, what have you. That's feeling the pain. Now, in our business, some of the common pain that people are feeling is that that our clients, you know, need peace of mind, whether it be the family or the individual. Now, as professionals, one of the common pains that we all have is we want more business, and so when we meet with folks, one of the things I come right out and say when I talk to clients is, I want to know where your pain is. You know, what can I do to help make your life better? And if you take every conversation with that, you'll find that they're rather productive. Now, this next one here, getting to know quickly, I've found this very helpful in networking environments based on the story that I just told you. So let's pretend that I'm this home care agency and I'm attending a networking meeting, and I've gone through this analysis over here that we talked about in a previous slide. So let's say that I come to this networking event, and okay, well, this looks like it's a nursing home or what have you, and my top referrals come from orthopedic physicians, nurses at nursing and rehab centers, and my competitors. So now I come to this networking event, and there's obviously not any orthopedic physicians there, and there's no nurses that are at a nursing and rehab center. There might be some competitors there, but more than likely, let's say that the first person that I meet at this networking event is a realtor. Now, what happens is that if you've ever tried to get business out of somebody that you know you can't get business out of, then you just start avoiding them at the networking events. But using getting to know quickly, here's one of the approaches. So you approach this realtor and you say, hi, my name is Steve. I work for Shady Acres Assisted Living. And so you're a realtor serving seniors. Now, you probably don't refer to assisted living, do you? Now, this person basically has two ways to answer this question. They could answer, oh, no, yes, I do. In fact, I referred to Whispering Pines Assisted Living last week. Now, if this is the case, you've hit pay dirt. This is somebody who you could take out to lunch. But more than likely, if you've been in this business for any period of time, the person is going to say, yeah, you know, primarily I give referrals. When people call me, they don't move to assisted living, they move to retirement communities. And now you can respond, well, I knew that because my primary referral sources are orthopedic physicians, nursing and rehab centers, and other assisted living providers who don't have big two-bedroom apartments like we do. So now this realtor might say to you something like, wow, well, you know, my wife works at another assisted living. I don't know if she's met you yet. Or, you know, my father-in-law is an orthopedic physician. Would you like me to provide an introduction there? And so using this, what I tell people is that going to these network meetings is very important. But a lot of times you're not going to get your A-level referrals here. What you're going to do is get access to people that know your A-level referrals. And when they apply this approach, they generally have a much more productive time at the networking meetings. So now let's talk about this structure and some ideas on how you can create a unique marketing plan that's going to help you stand out from the crowd. So going back to my 3 categories, first you've got your clients. Now you know who they are. And the important thing, the first thing that I like to tell people is that the best type of marketing is storytelling. As opposed to this laundry list, if you go through our magazine, what you'll see is a lot of the ads have a laundry list of services. 24-hour coverage, RNs, LPNs, great dining program, full schedule of activities. These are important, and there's a valuable point to have features of a community. But telling a story is what really sells your product and service. And it also is what gives you your competitive advantage. I use this example a lot when I'm talking to retirement communities, is that I say to folks, if we're competing on your physical structure, I can go across the street and build a bigger, better retirement community or an assisted living any day of the week. If I get the investors, if I'm willing to lose enough money, I can beat you on the structure. But what I can't beat you on is the fact that you have a unique student body or group of residents, and I like to use the college analogy, is that because, again, I think most kids choose the college because of the unique mix of students that they have and the unique mix of faculty, not the real estate of that university, and start thinking about our settings in that way. And I know, I'm using senior housing, but you can do this with home care, you can do this with services, because no other home care agency has your client base and can tell the same stories of your practice. Now, what you do with this, once you do this analysis, you can also use your clients to get access to their network for referrals. So let's say that you move a client into your community that went to a specific church, or you're hiring, or somebody hired you as a home care agency or an elder law attorney, and they tell you that they come from the Main Street Baptist Church. This is a great excuse, with their permission, to reach out to the pastor and have a dialogue that could lead to a marketing opportunity. So you might say, Pastor Smith, we just started providing service to Mr. Gurney, and we know he's a valuable member of the church, and we want to reach out to you to figure out how we can connect with your community better. And we also want to support what it is that our clients are a part of. And so I'd love to have that dialogue as well. I had one client who did this, and they went to this church, and they sat down, talked to the pastor, and they said, can we support something here? Do you have a little newsletter that we could run an ad in, or what have you? And it was a very small church, and they said, no, we don't have anything like that. And he goes, well, what do you give out on Sundays? And the pastor showed him just this 8.5 by 11 program that he prints on the copier in the corner. And what my client did was he gave the pastor $350 to help defray the service contract on the copier. And for 52 weeks out of the year, he had a full-page ad on the back of that 8.5 by 11 program that the church passes out. So you can really, by doing these two things, tapping into their network and supporting their interests, your client's interests, you can uncover some very low-cost, no-cost marketing opportunities. So when you're talking to these referral networks, tell the story, not the laundry list of services. What a referral source is going to be more compelled to hear is how Mrs. Smith came to you and she couldn't walk. And now after 6 months of rehab, she's living a more productive life. She's walking more. She's happier. And that's much better than this laundry list. One of the things that we recommend is that when you narrow down your list here of your 3 referral sources, to now create a unique marketing message for each of these segments. So when you think about that, that number 10 brochure that you've created, as opposed to handing the orthopedic physician that brochure that says, we're the best home care agency in the world for families, you might just reword some of that and redesign some of that to say orthopedic physicians trust this home care agency because. And then on the interior, you just tweak your copy to deliver, to tell that referral source what the value is to working with you specifically. And the beauty of this is you can go down to Kinko's and print 50 of these instead of 5,000 general brochures, and you can have one that you're giving to hospital case managers, one you're giving to physicians, one you're giving to trusted sources. We had talked about this with getting to know quickly is use other professionals to get to your A-list targets. One of the things that a lot of our clients do is they'll team up with folks and they'll go out and they'll call on prospects together if they're not competitors. It's a great way to make the day go by quickly. It's actually adding value to your referral sources because it's sort of like, hey, I'd love to schedule a meeting with myself and Cindy Smith, the elder law attorney, to come by and just meet and introduce ourselves. And then this is one of the things that I don't have on here is that what I recommend to a lot of my clients is to have your VIP list here. That's the people that refer to your organization. Put it up on a wall in your lunchroom. You want everybody in the organization to know that these are very important people to this organization. And when you add a new referral source to your organization, make a big deal about it. Order pizza that day. We got a new client. It was a referral from somebody that we never got before. And I want everybody to know that Cindy Smith is now referring to us. And you want your organization to respond when a referral source calls up there, and it's all hands on deck. Because trust me, if you're getting a referral source, there's people camping out on if you're getting referrals, there's other people camping out on their doorstep wanting to get those referrals, and you've got to make sure you service that. So, really work that VIP list, because if you lose it, it can be really tough. Referral partners, I'm going to go back to the geriatric care manager that gave the great referrals to the assisted living. What you need to realize is that you're not always going to get a tit-for-tat referral, and this is where I see a lot of relationships going south. So in other words, the care manager that refers 5 residents to the assisted living and doesn't get 5 residents back may start referring to another assisted living. And what we basically recommend here is always have a wish list of things other than a referral that can make your life easier. This is your pain. So if you find that getting out there and speaking in public is a great way to get clients, then sit down when you're referring to somebody. One of the things that you might say is like, hey, Cindy, I'm giving you a referral today, and obviously it would be great if you could give me a referral back. So I need to know, what tools do you need to make that happen? And I also need, and now here's getting to know quickly, is that are you even in a position to refer to us? What we discovered with the assisted living and the geriatric care manager is that this particular assisted living, the marketing director was so under the gun in terms of occupancy, and they were very gun shy about delay. When they got a prospect on the hook to move into this community, they would be very gun shy about referring to a geriatric care manager because that could just delay the move in, and she was obviously being compensated on her monthly move-ins. And so what she was very candid with us and sort of saying, you know, it's kind of hard to me to refer to geriatric care managers. However, what she was able to do is arrange for the care manager to speak at the community to the existing resident, the existing family council, and in addition, they also put on some public events where the care manager was able to speak, and the care manager thought this was great. It was a very equitable arrangement, you know, once we got to that point. And so that was having that wish list. And so always have a wish list of things that you can do over and above that. And this bullet here, stay connected to referrals. What we see a lot of our clients doing is they reach out to who they think would be a good referral source based on their past history. So let's say that they get referrals from 2 or 3 geriatric care managers, and they reach out to another geriatric care manager and they say, you know, would you, they do their due diligence, they try to have a lunch, and they determine that, you know, this care manager is referring primarily to another home care agency. And so they just totally give up. They never call on that person. They never do anything other than that. And what I tell folks is again, this is how you can use getting to know quickly. It's sort of like, hey, Sheila, I realize that you're happy with another home care agency, and I don't want to be a bother. Would it be okay if I reach out to you on a monthly basis? Again, yes or no, you know, and what we've seen happen in a lot of these situations where somebody does have a very trusted referral partner is they sort of set up the rules of the road. It's sort of like, you know, sometimes I might need another option. You know, for example, you're calling on a Friday afternoon, you call your referral source on a Friday afternoon and they can't fill your client. So why don't you just send me an email once a month, just so that I'm fresh, that you're fresh on my mind. And these are some of my elements of pain. If you find any resources on, you know, on Alzheimer's and what have you, if you can send that to me in your monthly email, that would be very helpful. And it sort of leads to a more productive relationship many times. Okay, let's see. I want to make sure I'm wrapping up here. I want to make sure that I touched on a lot of the issues that we generally touch on. As you can imagine, I can talk for hours on this stuff, but I know everybody's really busy, which is why you're tuned into a webinar and not coming to hear me speak live on this topic. So let me just kind of wrap it up there. And I don't know, Laura, I can hear you're rattling on the other line there. Did we get any questions?
We do have one question.
Okay.
Actually, we have a couple coming in. Rick says, my senior living center already harvests leads from our existing clients and referrals. How can we market directly to people or their children who need our service but are completely outside our client and referral networks?
Okay, well, let me go back to my original, or to one of the earlier slides, which shows sort of the matrix of different options that you can tap into. So, you know, I've spent a lot of time on this shoe leather networking, and, you know, I have to sort of reiterate that this is always the bottom of the pyramid for me, because in general, we've done some surveys on professionals that work with seniors, and in general, on average, at least from our network of professionals, on average, these folks are working with 75 different seniors and families a month, and give about 20 referrals to other folks. And so this is the low-hanging fruit out there, is networking with other professionals, is that you've got the opportunity to sort of tap into their client base, which is fantastic. Now, the other thing that I would sort of say, and you know, I'm glad that the question came from somebody that is sort of reaching out to their existing network, because, for example, let's say that Betty hires your home care agency and Betty has a physician, or Betty goes to a church. One of the things that you realize is that this is birds of a feather flock together, is that chances are Betty's physician has other clients just like Betty, and using Betty to sort of get to those folks is one of the easiest ways to do it. Now, I sort of think I know what the caller or the question was related to, more kind of like the fresh, you know, forgive my sort of warlike language, you know, the fresh meat out there, the people that don't have their tentacles into your existing network. What can we do? And what I want to do is sort of, you know, I'll start at the low-cost stuff first, is that public relations is, you know, again, you're sort of, getting an article in the newspaper or on, you know, patch.com is so effective, but it's also so difficult. And unfortunately, what most of us do is that we send a million press releases to all the media in our region, but a lot of times it's sort of like, I'm having an open house, we're having a carnival, you know, we've got this event, or we just added a new wing onto our assisted living center, or what have you. What I urge people to do is go back to this slide, okay? Your clients have tons and tons of great stories. So, for example, if there's a news item that comes out and it's, you know, it's something with NASA, and in the news where, you know, there's a controversy or what have you, chances are the generation of clients that we have, you might have a client that worked for NASA, and you could arrange to have an interview with the local newspaper on, you know, this 80-year-old, you know, client of yours that worked for NASA back in the day, and he's now talking about, you know, how different life is now in that organization to the way that it is today or back then. And so what I tell my clients to do is to just, you know, get the stories of your residents out there in the media. That's so much more compelling. And you can combine it. So it's sort of like, tell a great story about, you know, the resident that lives in your community, that is from your neighborhood and has lived there, you know, for many, many years. And oh, by the way, we're having an open house this weekend. The media is much more apt to let that happen. Let that be a story. Brochures and printed material. A lot of times we put too much information on our brochures, and I've had several clients recently that have really gone to just creating their brochures almost look like bookmarks, and they lead people to their website. And so, you know, in this situation, if you did something like that, your cost goes down for your printing, and now you can distribute these things all over the place. So if you did do bookmarks, you know, you can drop a pile of them at the library, and, you know, it's as opposed to sort of holding on to these brochures that cost you, you know, $3 to print each of them, and drive people to your website, because your website is really turning into your new brochure. And the great thing is you can make changes to it, and it costs a lot less. So you know, I rambled on here a little bit on that question, but you know, one of the things that I'll urge all the listeners is don't hesitate to call or email me. I love brainstorming like this and helping.
Let me pass you one last question, Steve.
Okay, great.
We have an older senior living center with an oversupply of newer centers in the area. All of us seem to be fighting over the same prospects and referral. Is there a way I can market to local adults who may have out-of-town parents who they may want to move to a home closer to them and their grandchildren?
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is, in the first slide, all marketing is thinking outside of the box, okay? And this is, that challenging problem that we're all faced with. And I'm going to go back to the first thing is telling the stories of the individual people in your program and getting more information on the people in your program. So here's kind of here's one way to sort of think about this one is that let's say that you've got a local program. You want to reach out to these adult children. Everybody is trying to find these folks. And I got to tell you, they're like finding a needle in the haystack, because let's say that we use sort of more of a mass marketing approach to advertising. Let's say that you can somehow afford to buy a radio campaign for a week. Well, the tough thing is that I'm driving in my car and you're talking about elder care issues. I'm not even hearing what you're saying on the radio, and you're spending thousands of dollars for that. And then a week later, your mom falls down, breaks a hip, and all of a sudden you need rehab, you need all this stuff. And, I mean, you might get lucky if that radio listener or that newspaper reader remembered that they saw an ad or heard an ad a week ago. But chances are people are going to start scrambling, and they're going to go out and tap into the resources that they know and trust. So here you are running a home care agency or senior housing community, and you're in, on Main Street, USA. The thing that I would do first is I would look at your list of all your existing clients, find those clients that have family and loved ones that live locally, that made the decision, and now you're going to take this birds of a feather approach. And so let's say that you got 5 or 6 clients that have a local resident or a family member living in your community. You might be surprised that all of them are members of the PTA for the local high school. And without that knowledge, you might, if I told you, hey, a good place to advertise would be in the PTA newsletter, you would say, you're crazy, Steve. Why would I do that? But if you're telling me that 5 of the families that are in your community are members of the high school PTA or the booster club or whatever it is, I'm going to tell you that's the best money you can spend. And what I'm going to also tell you is, if you can somehow integrate the stories of one of those residents into that ad in the PTA newsletter. So wouldn't it be cool to sort of have a picture of one of the other PTA members and say, Cindy Smith trusted Shady Acres with her mom, and that is how you sort of get your tentacles out, you capture the low-hanging fruit, you exploit the fact that your residents and your clients are unique to anybody, to any of your competition, and it can actually lead to some low-cost marketing. So, I mean, I could go on about this, but hopefully I answered the question with an idea that everybody can sink their teeth into. Okay, and Laura, I see it's 2 o'clock. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time.
Perfect. Okay, I believe that's it.
Okay, well let me give my last words is that don't hesitate to call me or email me. I love brainstorming, and it's through these hundreds of conversations that we've been able to sort of help all of our clients better. And I hope you sort of see the way that I presented this. I'm very sensitive to confidentiality. You know, when you meet with me, we're talking about your problems, and if I share them, generally it's in this sort of storytelling manner where I'm not revealing anyone, and a lot of these stories I shared with you today are sort of compilations of multiple conversations. And so anyways, that's it for me.